Good morning, and welcome to the 44th Annual Youth Motivation Task Force Program Assembly. I'm your Mistress of Ceremony, Nyla Riley. A freshman here at the university, majoring in fisheries biology. We must put our imagination to work so that we can succeed, but first, we must believe in ourselves. The theme for YMTF, I Got the Keys, provides us with the key elements yielding success. Our wonderful consultants have worked collaboratively with the Office of Career Services to motivate our students to work to their best abilities and to explore their career options. We are here today for the climax of our program, which is to hear our wonderful speaker, Mr. Bakari Sellers. We will begin with the presentation of colors. Please stand.
Time. March. Color guard. Halt. Left. Face. Post. Freeze it. Arms. Order. Arms. Right. Face. Forward. March.
You may be seated. We will now have our meditation by B87 Miss UAPB, Ashley Marie Taylor. The program will proceed as printed. Thank you. Good morning. I am Ashley Marie Tate, the 87 Miss University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and a senior majoring in English from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Caring about others, daring for others, and sharing with others are the three keys to more abundant living. The UAPB Office of Career Services use these three keys through the Youth Motivational Task Force program to encourage us to take full advantage of the benefits available, to give us guidance on how to succeed in our careers, and to provide us a glimpse of the real world of the work through the experiences of seasoned professionals. We learn something valuable from all of the significant events and people. However, we will never touch our true potential unless we challenge ourselves to go beyond imposed limitations. Today is a perfect day for self-reflection. You have the keys, but what are you going to do with them? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Robinson II. I'm a secondary education major and I'm a sophomore and I'm from Conway, Arkansas. And I would just like to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to all the consultants, participants, and faculty and friends to this year's 2017 YMTF program. The YMTF program is a program focused on helping college students like myself and many others transition from college life to the real world of work. We have over 44 consultants who are taking the time out of their busy schedule and responsibilities to come and share knowledge to some of the current students on campus. As a second-time participant in this year's, second-time participant in the YMTF program, I've learned so much from the program. I've gained knowledge and things that will help me not only in my career life, but in my life in the real world as well. Again, I would like to say welcome. And I would like to thank every consultant who is taking the time again out their schedule to come and share knowledge from the students. Thank you.
I'm gonna sing till the Spirit moves in my heart. I'm gonna sing till the Spirit moves in my heart. I'm gonna sing till the Spirit moves in my heart. I'm gonna sing till Jesus comes. I'm gonna sing, oh my Jesus, oh my Jesus, oh my Jesus, oh my Jesus, oh Jesus, oh my Jesus, oh my Jesus, till he comes. Sing, oh my Jesus, 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 till he comes. It was great, oh yeah, my Lord. It was great, oh yeah, my Lord. It was great, oh yeah, my Lord. And His grace that will lead me home. Hallelujah, I'm gonna pray, oh my Jesus, 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 oh my Jesus. Can't you feel the Spirit move? Can't you feel it move? Can't you feel it move? I'm gonna shout, oh my Jesus, 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 till he comes. I'm gonna shout, oh my Jesus, 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 till he comes. I'm gonna sing till my Jesus, till he comes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Carter III. I am a junior at the university, major in industrial technology management and applied engineering. It is an honor for me to introduce our speaker, Mr. Bakari Sellers, a fellow HBCU graduate, lawyer, activist, and CNN political analyst. Mr. Sellers has an impressive list of accomplishments. What really stood out to me is when he made history in 2006. At the age of 22, by defeating a state representative official office holder of 26 years. This made Mr. Sellers the youngest member of the South Carolina State Legislature and the youngest African American elected official of the nation. He earned his undergraduate degree from Morehouse College, where he served as student body president. Mr. Sellers follows in his father's footsteps by being a civil rights leader, addressing issues in the community like childhood obesity, domestic violence, education, and poverty. Some of Mr. Sellers' other notable accomplishments are, in 2007, he delivered the opening keynote address to the APAC Policy Conference in Washington, D.C. He served on former President Barack Obama's South Carolina Steering Committee in 2008. He was named Time Magazine's 40 Under 40 in 2010 and 2014. In 2015, he was on the Route 100 list of nation's most influential African Americans. Mr. Sellers currently practices law at Strong Law Firm in Columbia, South Carolina, and is a political commentator at CNN. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming our speaker, Mr. Bakari Sellers.
I don't know how I feel about standing ovations before you speak. It sets the bar pretty high. Before I begin, I have to say that was an amazing choir. I've traveled all across the country. I've spoken in many institutions and HBCUs and in many a church. And that was one of the best selections I've ever heard. I'm looking forward to the next one. In fact, when I come back, I'm going to give you some of my requests and see if we can handle that as well. My mom and dad always told me that the two most important words in the English language were the words thank you, and they're not nearly said enough. And so before I begin, I want to say thank you to this entire program. I think that it's an amazing opportunity for professionals to take time out of their schedule and come and mentor and sit and teach and actually learn something from students as well. And so thank you for all of you professionals who took time out of your schedule to come and spend time with the students here at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I also want to thank the chancellor, who I know is not here. I don't think he's here. He was hanging out with Donald Trump yesterday. I don't know if he made it back yet. And definitely the Office of Career Services. I grew up, not only did I go to an historically black college, but I grew up on the campus of Voorhees College in Denmark, South Carolina, breaking into the gym during the summer to play basketball. And I grew up on the campus of Denmark Technical College, and my mom worked at South Carolina State University, and my dad was president of Voorhees College. So I know how amazing it feels to be a part of this HBCU family. I also know how difficult it is to be a part of this HBCU family. And so anytime I have an opportunity to come and speak, I take that with great sincerity and thank those people who make our lives as students and alums very special. So please give your chancellor my very, very best. I had the opportunity last night to travel back to Little Rock to do some TV late in the evening. And I ended up staying up in my room a little bit and jotting down my thoughts for today. And then this morning I got a phone call that they wanted me on TV again, so I made the Hampton Inn Pine Bluff kind of famous and was able to Skype from my hotel room. But as I was thinking about this title of I Got the Keys, which I thoroughly appreciate, I thought about the fact that we all have these keys, but we have to understand that these keys are only good on this journey that we're taking. Because life is not a singular step, but instead life is a journey. And for every journey, you have to have some goal or destination. And since we got the keys, and we know that we're on this journey, for the purposes of this discussion, the destination is nothing less than excellence. So a journey to excellence. And I'm going to apologize beforehand because y'all flew me all the way out here to Little Rock, Arkansas, or Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And I'm going to apologize beforehand for bombarding you with questions that are rooted in such simplicity, but they're necessary to answer as we navigate this journey to excellence. The first is, how far have we come? And the next is, where do we go from here? Now, I will tell you that in the meditation that was given by Miss Ashley Tate, that she gave us some nuggets that I hope you all were listening to. And we may integrate a little bit of that this morning, but for the purpose of answering the first question, which is how far have we come, I think we need to use some historical context. For me, I think back to 1946. Where there was a young man named George Elmore who was so fair-skinned, so light-skinned that he could pass for being white. And so George, he was a business owner. He owned 2 liquor stores, a 5 and dime store. He actually drove a taxi and was a photographer. And George got this awesome idea that since he could pass, he was going to go down and register to vote. And in 1946, they actually let George come down and register to vote. And during the first Democratic primary, he showed up and tried to vote, and they said, wait a minute, George. You're a Negro. You can't vote. And George said, no, no, no. George filed a lawsuit. It was known as Elmore versus Rice. But in the pendency of that lawsuit, George lost absolutely everything. They stopped distributing to his stores. People stopped patronizing his stores. They would burn them down. They firebombed his taxi. They put crosses burning on his yard. It got so bad, the terrorism got so bad that his wife became institutionalized. But George didn't break. George was actually very successful in Elmore versus Rice in 1946, and it actually destroyed the all-white primary system that we had to elect every Democratic governor in the South, and why we can vote in primaries now. I think about the fact that we have these laws which attempt to disenfranchise African American voters and voter ID all the time. And I ask myself, since George Elmore in 1946, how far have we come? I think about 1947. This is a story I wish more people knew about. There was a young lady, she was 22 years old. She was a day laborer, a worker in local hotels. She actually walked on a bus. Back then in the South, many of the buses were owned by utility companies. This one was actually owned by the South Carolina Electric and Gas. And when she walked on the front of the bus, she took the only seat that was available. And they said, no, you have to get up, of course. And instead of walking out the back door where coloreds and Negroes were able to walk out, she walked out the front door of the bus. The bus driver stopped her and punched her in the stomach and rolled her down the steps. And with the help of a few attorneys and some people who were there, she ended up filing a lawsuit. Sarah Mae Fleming was her name. Sarah Mae Fleming versus South Carolina Electric and Gas in 1947. The irony is that before Rosa Parks decided to take a seat some 17 months before then, you had this bad black woman named Sarah Mae Fleming, who oftentimes the history books just overlook. Then I think about 1949, where parents of African American children in the Deep South only wanted their kids to have the same opportunities as white kids to ride school buses. And so they filed this lawsuit known as Briggs v. Elliott. Briggs v. Elliott was the first case in which this famous social experiment called the Kenneth Clark doll experiment was actually used. It was the landmark case, it was the foundation, it was the cornerstone for these cases that were known as Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. The first was filed in 1949 by a wonderful family and a young lady named Eliza Briggs. But I think about what happened in 1954 when Chief Justice Errol Warren got a very rare unanimous opinion in Brown versus the Board of Education, and he held that segregation causes a sense of inferiority by placing children in environments not conducive to learning. Think about that. He said segregation causes a sense of inferiority by placing children in environments not conducive to learning. And ask yourself that question over 60 years later, how far have we come? We live in communities where kids are literally punished because of the zip code that they're born into. And where they go to school where their heating and air don't work, where their infrastructure is falling apart, where teachers are overpaid and underworked. But you understand what I'm saying. Don't have the NEA or people outside protesting me. So ask yourself that very simple question, how far have we come? I go to a black church in the South, and I know many of you all do as well, but you have those ladies who sit in the front 2 rows every Sunday with those big hats. After church on Sunday, they usually try to cook for everybody, and after service, they also go and feed and hang out with the sick and shut in. Many times, though, we don't think about the fact that from Monday to Saturday, they have to decide whether or not they're going to pay their utility bills or get their prescription drugs. Ask yourself again the very simple question, how far have we come? We live in communities where the grip of impoverishment has placed its grasp on both our newborn and elderly alike. And escaping the trap of impoverishment has become synonymous with the proverbial dog that chases his tail. So again, ask yourself that very simple question. How far have we come? And James gave me a great introduction, so I'll tell you in my 32 years of great wisdom, I have come to the resolve that the answer to the question, how far have we come, is that we've made progress, but we still got a ways to go. So as we're taking this journey to excellence, this journey of which we have the keys, we ask ourselves the first question, how far have we come? We think about it, we do some introspection, we use some historical context, and we understand we've made progress, but we still have yet a ways to go. And so we pivot and ask ourselves the next question, which is, where do we go from here? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in one of his better writings, I like to say it's his second best writing, and no, the I Have a Dream speech is not number 1. I like to say the letter from Birmingham jail is number 1. But he wrote a book entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? And in that book, he gave us 2 choices. He gave us chaos or community. Chaos or community. Now, I can't help but to believe that when we look at TV and CNN, some of y'all may watch Fox News, but most of y'all hopefully watch CNN, that we see what's going on throughout the world. We see what's going on in our own communities. We can't help but to believe that we are on the brink of chaos. But the challenge for all of us under the sound of my voice is to build community. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who was born at 633 Frederick Street in Denmark, South Carolina. He went to Voorhees High School, as it was known at the time. And after he graduated Voorhees High School, he went to Howard University. When he got to Howard, he befriended a man named Stokely Carmichael. There's a little bit of irony in this story because Stokely graduated from Howard, but then convinced this young man from Denmark to drop out of school. And so he did. He dropped out of school and became a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as SNCC, and became a part of the freedom movement, the civil rights struggle. And right before Freedom Summer, they all went to Miami University of Ohio, where they were training so that they could go down to the Deep South to register voters. This was his first indoctrination into the civil rights movement because he got a phone call that he was going to have to go to Philadelphia, Mississippi. How many of y'all have ever been to Philadelphia, Mississippi? Philadelphia, Mississippi makes Pine Bluff look like New York. And during the day, they would hide in barns and sheds. And at night, they would go out and look in ditches and trenches because they were looking for the bodies of 3 of their fellow slain civil rights workers. They were looking for Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney. This young man from Denmark, he likes to tell the story that he couldn't wear belt buckles. He couldn't wear anything shiny. And ironically enough, they found these bodies behind the home of one of the local sheriff's deputies and ministers in Philadelphia. His name was Edgar Ray Killen. And that was this young man from Denmark's first indoctrination into the civil rights movement. This was until he came back to South Carolina and became involved in the most deadly civil rights demonstration that this country has ever seen. You see, on the night of February 6th, 1968, some 49 years ago, the students at South Carolina State College decided they were going to protest the All-Star Bowling Alley. The history books refer to the All-Star Bowling Alley as the last vestige of discrimination, Jim Crow's final hiding place. And it sits in a right angle. And the students decided they were going to go down and clap and chin and protest because all they wanted to do was have the same opportunity to bowl as white kids in Orangeburg. And so as they got down and they began to clap and chant and sing these protest hymns, city police began to surround the students and state troopers began to surround the students. And as the protest got louder, the police began to press up against the students. The students began to press up against the glass, and then the glass broke. When the glass broke, all hell broke loose. City police and state troopers began to beat many of the students, but they beat them not with normal police batons, but they had these batons that were about this long, and at the end they had these leather rawhide whips. My good friend John Stroman tells the story of seeing a freshman on campus being held by 2 state troopers while another one beat her. Many of the students, they had these gashes in the back of their heads and their backs, and they had to go back to their campus and they had to heal not only their physical wounds, but their emotional wounds and mental wounds as well. And then came February 7th, 1968. Older people say that the tension's so thick you can cut it with a knife, but who's your rival, James? Who's Pine Bluff's rival? Everybody. You're not helping with the speech. But it's kind of like when you're playing your rival and you're in the parking lot after the game and you feel like something's about to pop off. That's how the 7th felt. But nothing happened. But then came that fateful day of February 8th, 1968, when the students at South Carolina State decided they were going to go back down and clap and chant and protest again. But this time, when the state troopers came and the city police came, they got the right idea and they went back to their campus. They went back to their campus and they built a huge bonfire. And you can imagine February in the South, how the bonfire just warms your bones ever so slightly because it's not too cold, but it's cool. You can imagine how the embers illuminate the darkness. The students, they felt safe in their numbers. They felt safe because they were gathered together, much as we've gathered here today, for a singular cause and a common good. They felt safe in their communion. But they did not foresee what would happen next. They did not foresee that South Carolina State troopers would line up along the embankment in front of their beloved campus. They did not foresee that they would close ranks like they did. They did not foresee that they would have shotguns, and those shotguns would be loaded with deadly double-aught buckshots of the same bullets we use to hunt deer. And they did not foresee that those shotguns would be turned on them with deadly intent. And for 8 seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots were fired into the group of students. It killed 3, Henry Smith, Samuel Hammond, and Delano Middleton, and wounded another 28. This young man from Denmark was actually shot in the shoulder that night when he was taken to the infirmary on campus. And when he got to the infirmary, they told him there was nothing they could do for him there. He had to go to the hospital. When he got to the hospital, he was pointed out, ironically, again, by the only black sheriff's deputy in Orangeburg County, because he was a member of SNCC and national field organizer for the organization. Everybody knew who he was, and he was arrested. He was arrested and charged with 5 felony counts, looking at a maximum of 75 years in prison. In between the night of February 8, 1968, and the incident that the history books now refer to as the Orangeburg Massacre, and the day of his trial. It's funny how history repeats itself, but all 9 officers who fired shots into the group of students were tried, and all 9 officers who were tried were found not guilty. This young man from Denmark, he ended up going to trial, and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division had their lead investigator come testify that because so much time had lapsed that they had misplaced the evidence. However, he did remember this young man from Denmark standing on top of a fire truck, not on the night of the 8th, but the night of the 6th, lighting a bic and saying, "Burn, baby, burn." And so the indictment was backdated from February 8th to February 6th. He was charged, tried, and convicted of rioting, becoming the first and only one-man riot in the history of this country. To add just a little salt to the wound, he wasn't housed in normal circulation because he was deemed to be an outside agitator. They made him spend most of his time on death row. And if you ask him what's the greatest sacrifice he had to make, if you see that his eyes don't pop like they used to from shedding so many tears, from losing so many loved ones in this struggle, and you see that his shoulders don't stand as upright as they once did from carrying the burdens of so many generations, and ask him what is the greatest sacrifice, he'll tell you that it's not being in jail or losing his freedom per se, but it was being in the jail for the birth of his oldest daughter, or my big sister. Because this young man from Denmark, South Carolina, who grew up into a civil rights hero is my father, Dr. Cleveland Sellers. And see, the lessons that I learned from people like him and Henry Smith and Samuel Hammond and Delano Middleton, and even Sarah Mae Fleming and George Elmore and Eliza Briggs, and even Jimmy Lee Jackson and Medgar Evers and Emmett Till, and Martin, Malcolm, and Rosa and Stokely and John Lewis, James Foreman, and Marion Barry, is that the answer, where do we go from here, lies fundamentally in the ability for us to do 2 things. The first is extremely hard, and the second one is something we should already be doing. On this journey to excellence, we're going to have roads that are very bumpy, but the first thing that we have to do as we answer this question, where do we go from here, is we have to understand and rededicate ourselves to the proposition that we have to love our neighbors. But there's a caveat. You have to love your neighbors even when they don't love you. And that's damn hard. The second thing you have to learn how to do is dream with your eyes open. On this journey to excellence, we have all the keys, and we just need a little bit more salt to make this thing perfect. And we have to ask ourselves these questions of how far have we come and where do we go from here? We have to dedicate ourselves to the proposition of loving our neighbors even when they don't love us, and then we have to dream with our eyes open. So again, y'all flew me all the way out here, and y'all believe that I left you with a nugget like be all you can be, so I'm going to explain to you what dream with your eyes open actually means. When I was 20 years old, I had just graduated from Morehouse College. I was preparing this statement in my room to come downstairs and tell my parents. And when I graduated from college, I had a whole lot of swag, right? And so I came downstairs. I sauntered downstairs, and I was preparing to tell my mom and dad that I was going to run for the South Carolina House of Representatives, that I was going to run against Representative Thomas Rhodes, who was 82 years old, had been in office for 26 years. Before that, he was the county council chairman. Before that, he was the mailman, and before that, he delivered the milk. So he knew everybody. And I came downstairs, and my mom was cooking spaghetti. My dad was on the other side of the cook island. He was going through the news and the mail. And I had this robust statement that I had prepared to tell my parents, and I just said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to run for the House. And my mom, while she was still stirring, didn't even break the stir, looked up and said, I'll vote for you. My dad looked up and said, I'll think about it. And so we knocked on all these doors and went to all these churches. June 13, 2006, we won a race, made a little history, but something was happening around that time. People were running for President of the United States. And so I would come home, and I would have messages from Bill and Hillary Clinton, from Chris Dodd, from Joe Biden, from Dennis Kucinich, from John Edwards, from Barack and Michelle Obama, everybody wanting me to endorse them to be President of the United States. I'm the youngest state legislator in the country at the time and youngest black elected official, so I feel like a 5-star athlete or something. And as I'm going to class one day, leaving the State House with my book bag on, my phone rings and it's a private number. And this is not a part of my remarks, this is just a PSA to young people in the room, but if somebody calls you from a private number, understand that it's one of two people. It's either somebody very important or it's a student loan company calling to get their money back. And so I answer and they say, do you have a moment to speak with Barack Obama? And I've spoken to the president and met the president, well, then senator before, and I say, of course. He says, now is the time. I want you to endorse me to be President of the United States. I was on my way to constitutional law class. We talked about that. I didn't know where I was because I hadn't read in so long, but we talked about that briefly. And finally, I said, Senator, I will do that under 2 conditions. My final 2 choices were down to he and John Edwards. And I said, I'll do this under 2 conditions. The first is that my mom gets an opportunity to work on the campaign. Number 2 is that you come to my district. He says, okay. I go to Virginia, I go to Florida, I go to Ohio, I campaign all across the country. And I get an opportunity to go on all these college campuses, and usually I'm with Tatiana Ali or Harold and Kumar, and we're just going around campaigning. It's the most amazing experience ever. And finally, the South Carolina primary is upon us, and they say, the senator wants to make good, he wants to come to your district. I had a little problem because my hometown has 3 stoplights and a blinking light. I really don't have no place to put Barack Obama. But we decided we were going to put him in the one county over. We were going to put him in Orangeburg, South Carolina, in the gymnasium on the campus of South Carolina State University that's named after the 3 young men killed in the Orangeburg massacre. And I'll never forget that day. I pull up, I have my own State House security. I'm feeling real good. It's the height of Obama mania, so people are around from North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. Everybody's come around just to hear him speak, to talk to him, to see him. Just thousands upon thousands of people. And I go into the gymnasium where we're having this event, and I go into the green room, which is the men's basketball locker room. And sitting down in the green room are Kerry Washington and Chris Tucker. And so me, Kerry, and Chris were just chatting and talking, and as you can imagine, there's just one small stage in center court, and there's just a metal railway walking to that stage, and it's completely filled all around you. Above you, we even have some overflow in another auditorium down on the campus. And we're waiting. In politics, everything is late, so we're waiting about an hour, and then the senator arrives. But before he does, my good friend Rick Wade comes in and says, I'm going to go to the airport real quick. I'll be right back. He goes to the airport and he comes back with Usher. And I have pictures, don't suck your teeth. So it's me, Chris Tucker, and Usher waiting on Barack Obama. And then the senator gets there and they say it's go time. And when I speak sometimes, Around the world, I don't get an awesome introduction like I got this morning from James, but sometimes we have the VOG, which is called the Voice of God, and they say, and now welcome to the stage, Representative Sellers. And so I get to come out the tunnel in my home district where I know everybody, but the whole nation is watching, international media all back there. People are grabbing on my suit, and I'm autographing babies, and it is amazing. And we're supposed to speak for 5 minutes, and I get to the stage, and when I get to the stage, I talk about Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, but many times we get caught up in the rhythmic cadence of I have a dream that one day we shall, and we forget about the most important part of that speech, which is the fierce urgency of now. And then I turn around and I introduce Chris Tucker. And the decibel level gets a little louder, and Chris comes out and talks for a minute, and then Chris turns around and introduces Kerry Washington. And Kerry comes out and she talks for a minute, and the decibel level gets a little louder, and then she introduces Usher. And Usher comes out and speaks, and then all the women start passing out. And then Usher turns around and he introduces Barack Obama. And as you can imagine, it's so loud that all you can hear is a little buzzing in your ear. And we're standing on stage, and it's pure pandemonium. The rails are shaking, Secret Service is having a fit, and the senator looks at us and says, y'all gonna have to get off stage. We were supposed to stand there while he spoke, but he said, y'all are gonna have to go back to the back. But before we do, we take this picture. To my left is Chris Tucker, to my right is the 44th President of the United States. To his right is Kerry Washington, and to her right is Usher Raymond. And people ask me all the time, they say, what were you thinking in that moment? And I tell them that I was only 19 miles away from where I decided to dream with my eyes open and have the audacity to believe that I could be a part of changing the world. I was only 150 yards away from where my father was shot, and the blood of my family literally ran through the soil, and I was able to understand the shoulders of all the heroes and sheroes that I had stood upon. Even more importantly, I realized that I came from a very, very small community where not many people believed that I was going to be able to do those things, where we had to jump ditches for fun and play basketball on wooden backboards, and we had the 10-cent icy lady right down the street. I was thinking about all those things and all those steps and all those many miles. And I was thinking that although we were really this close, I had gone so far. And for me, that was the concept of dreaming with your eyes open. It was being a part of something that was larger than yourself. So as we take this journey to excellence and we ask ourselves this question of how far have we come, and we ask ourselves the question of where do we go from here, and we remember that we've made progress, but we still have yet a ways to go, and then we challenge ourselves to love our neighbors even when they don't love us, and then we dream with our eyes open, then we can reach this ultimate goal of excellence. And I'll leave you with this quote. With all due respect to any educator in the room, the greatest educator of all time is Benjamin E. Mays. Benjamin E. Mays once said, in all things that you do them so well that no man living, dead, or yet to be born can do them better. That is the definition of excellence. That is the journey for which we have the keys. Because I want to meet all of you all at the top. But even more importantly, I want someone at the end of this journey to simply say, job well done. Thank you, and God bless you all.
While the choir is getting set, I thought that we would do something different this time. We usually sing spirituals. I thought we would do some Duke Ellington this time. So hit me with a hot note. Okay. Many of you probably know that several members of the choir are going to go to Spain in March. We went to Italy in 2006, and 10 years, so it's about time that we do that. So we're going to take 44 students and 5 staff members, and we're going to go to Madrid and Toledo. So we'll be doing 3 concerts as well as a whole lot of sightseeing. One of the premier arts institutions, the Prado, will be able to go there and spend a good deal of time. So this is really not a plea for money. However, should you care, you can contact the development office and help us out. Thank you.
Hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. When trumpets beat up, give me a run to beat up. Hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. Hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. Slap me down with rhythm and step to start. The success hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. Start that trombone sliding while I gather steam. Keep that tempo riding, and I'll come in right on the beat. Oh, hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. Knock me out with music in great amounts. Oh, let that heat wave, we're gonna have a heat wave. Hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. Hit me with the high note now. Hit me with the high note and watch me bounce. Start that trombone sliding while I gather steam. Keep that tempo riding, and I'll come in right on the beat. Hit me with the high note and watch me, oh, watch me bounce. Oh, let that heat wave, we're gonna have a heat wave. Hit me, yeah, hit me with the high notes. Hit me with the high note and watch. Come on and watch me bounce. Oh, hit me, watch me bounce. Hit me with the high note and watch me bounce.
On behalf of the YMTF program, the Office of Career Services, and the University of Arkansas in Pine Bluff, it's my privilege and my pleasure to present a token of our appreciation to a respected analyst, talented lawyer, and HBCU product, Mr. Bakari Sellers. Thank you.
Thank you.
YMTF is a program that is basically designed to help our students transition from college to the real world of work. Last year, we decided as a committee, especially in the Office of Career Services, to recognize some of our students who have exemplified some things that we feel like show them as a leader. So each one of us in the office were told to identify a student. My choice was pretty difficult, but as I started to list some characteristics, it became more plain. Being who I am, I did not want to miss giving this person all the accolades that they were due. So I said, Lord, now, I done jotted down these 4 points that I want to cover about this person, but make sure I give him his just due. I left it alone. I went home yesterday with the intention of writing down everything that I wanted to say. Didn't do it, because I told myself I was tired. I got up this morning, I'm like, okay, God, I need you to make sure that I give this man his just due. God said to me, Tracy, why are you asking me what you already know? So here is what I came up with. So our theme for this week has been unlocking the doors to success. No, that is not our theme. Our theme has been, let me look on here, I got the keys. Key elements yielding success. And there were 3 points that the consultants talked about as they went into the classroom. The first one was education. So when I thought about the education of this person, the first thing that came to mind was this person has maintained a 4.0 GPA for the entire time that they've been here. The second thing that came to mind was this person is also attending college on a full ride academic scholarship. The second point that the consultants have been talking about is self-development. This person is an active, and I'm going to stress active, member of the STEM Academy. He is currently serving as president of the campus chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers. He has attended the Thurgood Marshall Leadership Institute just this past fall, and he also served as a student liaison for YMTF in 2015. Career planning was the third thing that the consultants talked about. This person received their first internship at the end of their sophomore year with a strong company, which ultimately turned into a co-op that fall. His hard work and determination resulted in him receiving 2 more co-ops, both with local companies, one with Stant, and the next one with Kisswire, which is where he currently works. Now, the icing on this person's cake, just for now, because there's more, is that he has already accepted a summer internship with Walmart Corporate in their real estate strategy division. And to top this all off, this young man got married about a year ago and is still maintaining his focus. So with that said, and I'm sure he's figured out who he is by now, Mr. Kawante Dowdy. So he is being presented with a certificate, and the certificate is a certificate of recognition. This is to certify that Corvante Dowdy is hereby awarded the certificate of recognition for outstanding achievement for the year of 2017. It's signed by Chancellor Lawrence B. Alexander and Ms. Shirley Cherry, who is the Director of Career Services. And he also gets a nice $50 Visa gift card.
Good afternoon. My speech may not be as long as Ms. Lawton's because I'm short of words, but this person that I'm going to represent today also has a list of accomplishments. When I first met this person, which I started in the office March of last year, and when I first met this person, it was like an in-sync thing. You know, we were like connected from the start. And I began to ask Ms. Rowley about this person. Notice I didn't say he or she, because I'm trying to stick to neutralness for right now. So when I met this person, I asked Ms. Rowley about this person, you know, what's up with this person? How are they doing? And one thing that Ms. Rowley pointed out to me was this person transferred their sophomore year to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And when they transferred with a 2.7 GPA. But after getting registered with the Office of Career Service the same year that they transferred, which when they came to the office, they came in t-shirts, shorts, things like that. You know, in the Office of Career Service, we represent professionalism. So the person said, well, Ms. Rowley, I'll be back. And when they came back ready, geared up, ready for a career. After this person's first semester at UAPB, they ended the semester with a 4.0 GPA. But since being registered with the Office of Career Service,
This person has participated as a liaison for YMTF, and the only reason why this person did not participate this year is because they said they missed the email. But this person is working and has worked ever since they have been registered with the office. They started with an internship with Reliance Bank here in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and from there they received employment opportunity to work with Reliance Bank. Not only are they working with Reliance Bank, but one thing I tell my students when they come to my office, I ask the question, when you walk across that stage and you shake Chancellor Alexander's hand and you go to your after party after you graduate because you know you have to go to your after party, what is your plan for that Monday morning? And a lot of my students say it's to go to work. And some of them say it's to find a job. But how many of you all know this particular person already have a career ready for them when they graduate this coming May? And not just have a career, this person's desire was to work for the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis and has received that offer. So I will present to some and introduce to others Brielle Taylor. This woman is phenomenal. And the certificate reads, this is to certify that Brielle Taylor is hereby awarded the certificate of recognition for outstanding achievement for the year 2017, signed by our very own Chancellor, Lawrence B. Alexander, and the Director of Career Services, Mrs. Shelley Cherry. Brielle, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
And she also gets a $50 gift card.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Janicia Laws. I'm a sophomore majoring in political science. The quality of YMTF is directly related to the commitment of our supporters and their commitment to student achievement. Without them, this program would not be possible. When I call the name of the company or agency, will the representatives present please stand? For our platinum supporters, we have Mercedes-Benz Financial Services, represented by Miss Bobby Sweet. Wait, sorry. For gold supporters, we have Banneker Ventures. Please stand. For our silver supporters, we have Sam's Club. In Monsanto, represented by Mr. Malcolm Mathis II and Mr. Tracy House. For bronze supporters, we have the Willis Family Dentistry, represented by Dr. Giles Willis. Our individual supporters include Kamisha Freeman, Ms. Bobby Sweat, and Ameriprise Financial Services, Matlock and Associates. The Office of Career Services truly appreciates your financial support. With your support, our success is almost guaranteed. We value the opportunity for partnering with you and hope that you will continue to support our goal for maintaining quality out-of-class learning. Thank you for continuing to support us. Please join me in a round of applause for all of our supporters. If there are any members of the Executive Cabinet in the audience, will you please stand? Thank you. Faculty and staff, would you please stand? Thank you. If there are any elected officials in the audience, will you please stand? Thank you. Pine Bluff High School, please stand.
Hello, I'm Bobby Sweat, and I am sweet. Yes, and I was asked to give the closing remarks, but I also want to take this opportunity to reflect on the last 2 days that we've had here. And so for those of you who observed me, it looked like I was maybe texting or playing on my phone. I was actually closing out my notes that I wanted to say. But first, as you know, we really opened up with our own Quezon branch on Sunday, and he opened us up with in his usual weekly form, right? But he left us with a key message of always taking our keys and using it for our success. And he also closed that program on Sunday with us with a quote by Kevin Durant that I really liked. And for those of you who were there and don't remember it, and for those of you who weren't there, I think this is really good. He left us with a quote by Kevin Durant that said, "Hard work beats talent when talent won't work hard." And that's really thought-provoking, isn't it? And so I'll remember that. For the 44 consultants that are here on campus this year, I think this was a record high, Ms. Jerry. Thanks for coming out and giving your time and your talents to be with us. In addition to the students liaisons this year. I've been here for about 13 years now, and each year the caliber of our student liaison just seems to continue to just grow and grow. And they actually showed an amazing level of professionalism this year. So thank you, students. You're on the right track. In addition to the faculty, thank you for allowing us to invade your classrooms this year, as always. And above all, to the Office of Career Services, Ms. Cherry and her staff, and even the planning committee for YMTF. Seem like we kind of outdo ourselves every year, from our themes to actually the execution of the program. So thanks a lot. And Mr. Sellers, thank you. And that's why I was writing over there, because I did not want to leave without highlighting with a couple of things that he said that were very powerful on this continuous journey to excellence. And he's leaving us, I believe, with 2 thought-provoking questions, and that is, how far have we come? Think about that. And where do we go from here? And while we think and ponder on those 2 questions, just always remember to dream with your eyes wide open. And I think those are not only 2 thought-provoking questions, but I think closing it out with that thought will carry us on. And I'm actually looking forward to what we're going to do next year. Thank you.
Good evening. What an awesome job, not with just the presentation today, but the whole Youth Motivation Task Force program. I don't know where you're going from here, Ms. Chair. I really don't. The committee did an excellent job. Everything was just so full of excellence. And Chancellor Alexander would have loved to have been here, but we teased him in cabinet meeting last week, Dr. Kira. When he told us he was going to see the Donald, we gave him a list of things that we want him to tell the Donald when he gets there. So we excuse him for being absent today. And I'm sure he had a way of communicating with the Donald. And I tell you what, and another cabinet delegation, unfortunately, had to travel to North Little Rock for the homegoing ceremony of one of our former vice chancellors for finance and administration, and Barbara Goswick. So that's why Dr. Bakari and Ms. Broyles and Vice Chancellor Martin are not here today. They would have loved to have been here, but they had to represent the university. And Mr. Sellers, I tell you, I don't know where you're going from here, but I'm thinking maybe it's going to be 4 years, or maybe it's going to be 8 years. But, you know, when that time comes, sign me up. Hey, sign me up. And I tell you, each youth motivation task force program has its own special class. And I sat and listened to the speaker, and we have our own hidden figures. I looked at, and we have Dr. Ruth Jones, PhD physics, who works at NASA, but she's a graduate of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And we have executives from major medical facilities, some that are retired, but chose to come back and share. We have executives that are currently working and executives that are retired from the world's largest retailer, but they back on this campus, sharing with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff students, executives from IBM, as well as other companies. And Speaker Sellers talked about some of the violence that we had to deal with during that era. And if you look at the program, you know, we have executives that are in law enforcement. And there was a young boy from Gould, Arkansas, that attended the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, worked at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, and worked as chief of police at UAPB. And now he's in law enforcement that's arranging the security details for all of the executives that comes to Kansas State University. So we've come a long way. And then you also have in your midst, you know, in most counties and those small rural counties in the South, the Sheriff's Department controls law enforcement. So as part of your program this year, you had the #2 law enforcement executive going to class with you and the president of Major Lafayette Woods Jr. And so we've come a long way. And generally we give recognition to all of the corporate executives, but those grassroots individuals that make a difference and help keep us safe are very, very important. So I'm grateful that not only are they a part of this program, but they are graduates of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And so I guess my charge, my only disappointment is that I'm able to see the backs of seats in the audience. That's my only disappointment, that I'm able to see the backs of seats in the auditorium, and that the walls are not lined with students around the wall spilling into the hallways, because they certainly missed a message. They missed a message from someone from their generation. You know, my students generally tell me, well, Mr. Bennett, did you come here with the builders? No, I didn't. So they missed a message from someone from their generation that's able to, and I had an opportunity to hear him this morning. I listened to CNN every day. As a matter of fact, I go to sleep with CNN. I wake up with CNN. And so I had an opportunity to hear him this morning when he did his presentation, I think from the Hampton Inn. So we had a speaker today from your generation. It was not from that generation where you have to turn back and look at history books to know what he or she did. So tell your colleagues, students that are present, that you missed a tremendous presentation. And next year, committee, I'm charging the YMTF committee. I don't know what you're gonna do next year. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna do what you've been doing for 44 years. So we expect nothing but excellent. And Chancellor Alexander would accept nothing but excellent. So thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing with us. And we are better off because you did pay us a visit and you stopped our way. Thank you.
We will now have the retrieving of the colors. Please stand.
March time. March. Color guard. Halt. Left. Face. Post. Freeze it. Arm. Order. Arm. Right. Face. Forward. March. Look.